Hello and welcome to another interesting English language class. My name is Precious Balogun. Our theme for today is literacy skills, reading comprehension. And our topic is reading to make notes. By the end of the lesson, you should be able to read and comprehend the message of the passage by following the storyline. Also, we should be able to identify the main, supporting or secondary points in individual paragraphs that make up the passage. And lastly, identify keywords or sentences. Reading is one of the skills every good student should have. It is a process of identifying and making meaning out of symbols and words. Now, what is the purpose of reading? We read so that we'll understand. In order for us to understand what we have read or heard, it is important for us to take down notes. Effective note making will help us recall all that we have read and also understand them. Now, let's take a look at what note making is all about. Note making is a process of writing down important information in a well-organized manner. We can get these information from books, articles, and so on. A note is made up of headings, subheadings, main ideas, supporting ideas, keywords or phrases. Now let's take a look at the importance of note making. Why is it important to take down notes? Note making makes studying and understanding easier, and it also helps us emphasize and organize our information. When we take notes, we are able to highlight the keywords and main phrases of a particular paragraph or piece of writing. Now let's see the different methods of note making. We have 5 methods, and they are Connell Method, Outlining Method, Mapping Method, Charting Method, and Sentence Method. Now let's take a look at these methods one after the other. We'll start with Connell Method. This method involves dividing your writing paper or sheet into 3 sections. We have the cue section, the outlining section, and lastly, the summary section. The cue section is at the left-hand side of your writing sheet that contains the keywords and main ideas of your notes. Next, we have the outlining section, which contains the explanation of the main ideas and key phrases. And lastly, we have the summary section. This is sometimes found at the bottom of your writing sheet. This is where you write the summary of your notes. Now, let's move on to the next method, which is the outlining method. Outlining method is a method of writing in a clear and organized manner. In this method, we make use of bullet points, letters, numbers, dashes to outline and also identify our information. This is done in order of importance. The most important information is classified as headings, and under it we have subheadings. Now let's go on to see the next type of method. Mapping method is a method of using graphics to represent our information. Here we can use different visual markers like bubbles, lines, shapes to represent different concepts in order of their importance. Now let's go on to see the next type of method. Charting method is a method where we use columns, rows and tables to represent our information. This type of method helps us classify our information for easy accessibility. Now let's go on to see the last type of method, which is the sentence method. The last method we'll be looking at is the sentence method. This method is a process of writing down complete sentences while making notes. This method helps us retain the specific phrases, quotes, and expressions used by a writer. Having looked at the different methods of note making, let's see how we can read to make notes. In order to make notes, we must ask ourselves the following questions. What is our purpose for reading? Why are we making notes? What do we seek to achieve? Are you reading to understand a concept or topic? Are you reading for an exam or test or to generate questions? When we can ask ourselves these questions and answer them, we're in for a good start. In order to take effective notes, we must also be able to identify the main points and supporting points of a paragraph or a piece of writing. First, let's start with identifying the main points. What is a main point? The main point is a main message in a paragraph, and it is found in a sentence called the topic sentence. Remember that every piece of writing is made up of at least a paragraph, and a paragraph has a sentence which is known as the topic sentence. So that is where we find our main idea for the paragraph. Now that we know what a main point of a paragraph is, let's take a look at an example of a paragraph and find out the main point. There are different types of unusual plants. Some of these unique and unusual plants are guava tree, rafflesia flower, baobab tree, vegetable sheep, cactus plants, pocketbook plants, climbing onion plants, rabbit's foot fern, Chinese lantern plant, hibiscus silver dragon, coral orchids. Now, what do you think the main point of this paragraph is? Remember, we said the main point is the main message of a paragraph. Here, our main point is there are different types of unusual plants, because this is the main message that the writer wants us to know. Next, we'll be looking at the supporting points. Supporting points of a paragraph are the facts, statements, or examples that the writer uses to explain the main point of a paragraph. The supporting points of a paragraph may be definitions, comparisons, contrast, vivid descriptions, illustrations, or examples that help clarify, explain, or describe the main points. Now, let's take a look at an example. Everyone loves nature. Many love it because they lived close to wild plants and animals, hills, rivers, rocks, mountains, and forests in the countryside where they grew up. All these and many more make our environment beautiful. Our supporting points can be identified by looking for the detail that clarifies or describes the main point. Here, the main point is everyone loves nature. What then describes the main point? We have many love it because they live close to wild plants and animals, hills, rivers, rocks, mountains, and forests in the countryside where they grew up. This is our supporting points. Now that we know what the main points and the supporting points are, there is another thing that we must consider before taking notes, which is keywords or phrases. What are keywords or phrases? These are important words or phrases used in a particular paragraph or piece of writing, and they are also related to the subject of a paragraph or piece of writing. The question now is, how can we identify keywords? This is easy. They can be identified by looking out for words or phrases that are emphasized by the writer or words that are repeated by the writer. Let's see if we can identify the keywords in this paragraph. Fake medical products are quite harmful. Fake medicines range from the useless to the highly dangerous. They often contain the wrong level of the active ingredients, too little, too much, or none at all. They may even have an active ingredient intended for a different purpose. In some cases, fake medicines have been found to contain highly dangerous substances such as rat poison. Remember, we said we can identify keywords or phrases by looking out for emphasized words or repeated words that are related to the subject matter of a paragraph or piece of writing. Here we have fake medical products as our subject. The words that are repeated and emphasized by the writer are harmful, fake medicine, highly dangerous, wrong level of active ingredients, fake medicines, and dangerous substances. These words or phrases are the keywords or phrases of the paragraph. I'm sure by now you know how to identify main points, supporting points, and keywords or phrases in a paragraph. Now, let's take a look at tips that will help us in making notes. The first tip is that we must concentrate while reading. It is important to pay attention to the title, the introduction or introductory paragraph, the headings, diagrams if used, and conclusion or last paragraph. The next tip is that we should identify the main and supporting points in a text and jot them down in our notepad. Also, we should underline, highlight, or circle keywords or ideas. And lastly, we can use any method of note making of our choice. This is where we draw the curtain for today's class. But before we go, let's take a quick summary of all we've learned so far. We've learned that note making is a process of recording or writing down important pieces of information in an organized manner. Lastly, we've learned that to read to make notes, we must concentrate while reading, identify the main and supporting points in the text and jot them down in a notepad, and lastly, use any method of note-making of your choice. Now, let's try some test questions. Question 1. Which of the following will help in note-making? A. Writing the message word for word. B. Identifying the main and supporting ideas. C. Determining the nouns and pronouns used. Or D. Looking out for the writer's grammatical errors. The correct answer is B. Identifying the main and supporting ideas will help us in note making. Question 2. Which of the following is a feature of supporting ideas? They A. Support the verbs in a piece of writing. B. State the main idea in a paragraph. C. Replace the main point or idea. Or D. Give clarity to the main point. The correct answer is D. Supporting ideas give clarity to the main point. I hope you can now effectively make notes. Till we meet again in our next class, see you and bye!